You might think NBA players have seen it all. The pressure, the roaring crowds, the impossible shots. But what happens when even the toughest athletes face something they can't explain? Imagine hearing a baby crying in a hotel room, where no child has ever stayed. This is the story of two Spurs stars, Tim Duncan and Zeff Aires, who faced a haunting so real, they refused to spend another night in that room. In the early 2010, the San Antonio Spurs were on a West Coast road trip, one of many they'd taken over the years. They arrived in Berkeley, California, and checked into the Claremont Hotel. This hotel is historic, having stood for over a century, with grand architecture, elegant design, and a storied past. But old buildings often have stories behind their walls, stories of events long forgotten, tragedies, and sometimes unexplainable phenomena. The Claremont was no different. Guests and staff alike whispered about strange noises, flickering lights, and eerie shadows that didn't belong. These rumors were dismissed as ghost stories or imagination until the night Zeff Aires checked into his suite. Zeff was tired after a long day of travel and practice. He unpacked, turned on the TV for some background noise, and settled in, ready to relax and get a good night's sleep before the next game. But as he tried to sleep, he noticed something odd, a soft, distant sound that grew louder. It was the unmistakable cry of a baby, a sound that no athlete on a professional basketball team would expect to hear in a hotel room, especially when no children were around. Zeff was puzzled, but tried to brush it off, thinking maybe it was coming from another part of the hotel or somewhere outside. He got up and opened his door to check the hallway, but it was empty and silent, completely deserted. There were no kids, no families staying nearby, no reason for that crying to be there. Then, without warning, the bathroom light flickered on by itself. The temperature dropped suddenly and a cold chill filled the room. Zeff knew this wasn't normal hotel noise. Something else was going on. The next morning, Zeff was visibly unsettled, but shared the experience with Tim Duncan, the Spurs' legendary forward. He expected disbelief or jokes, but Tim listened carefully. Then Tim dropped a chilling revelation. He had heard the same crying the previous night, from his own room, on the same floor. Two NBA stars in separate rooms, hearing the exact same eerie baby cry. They asked the hotel staff about the room next door. The answer shocked them. The room was listed as vacant. No one had stayed there that night or for a long time. The Claremont Hotel isn't just any hotel. It has a long, dark history filled with stories of hauntings. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures moving through the hallways, sometimes even catching glimpses of a woman in old-fashioned clothing. Phones have been known to ring even when unplugged. Lights flicker inexplicably, often at night. Sudden drops in temperature have made guests shiver despite the heat. And the most chilling of all is the persistent baby crying heard by multiple guests over the decades. No one has ever identified who or what causes the cries, but the legend persists, weaving through the hotel's history like a ghostly thread. After that night, neither Tim Duncan nor Zeff Aires would ever stay at that hotel again, nor set foot on that floor or in that room. They rarely talk about the experience publicly, but it's a story that followed them. It's a reminder that no matter how strong, brave, or famous you are, there are things beyond your control. Things you cannot explain. Things that can shake even the toughest NBA stars to their core. So, next time you're traveling, checking into a hotel room you don't know, and you hear an unexplained sound, a cry in the night, remember this story. Because sometimes the scariest games aren't played on the court. They're played in the shadows, in the quiet spaces where the lights flicker and the baby cries echo through the empty halls. Have you ever moved into a place that just didn't feel right? Like the walls were holding something in? Or worse, this is the story of NBA star Zion Williamson and the disturbing allegations tied to a luxury apartment he once lived in. It was 2022 when news broke that Zion Williamson, one of the most explosive young talents in the league, was facing a lawsuit. But this wasn't about basketball. It wasn't about contracts or endorsements. It was personal. A woman named Mariah Mills, who had been publicly linked to Zion, accused him not only of betrayal but of mental and physical abuse. According to her, the incidents happened inside the upscale apartment they once shared in New Orleans. At first, most people wrote it off as tabloid noise, a messy breakup, drama that would fade like all celebrity scandals do. But then other tenants in the same complex started to speak out. One woman, who lived directly below Zion's former unit, claimed she often heard screaming at night. Not arguments, but what she described as anguish. Sometimes she'd hear heavy footsteps pacing for hours long after midnight. Other times, furniture scraping across the floor, even though the unit had supposedly been empty for weeks. Then there was the smell. Maintenance workers reported a strong chemical scent inside Zion's old apartment long after he moved out. Like bleach, heavy, constant, as if someone had tried too hard to scrub something clean. They checked the unit. It was spotless, but cold. Not just the air, the feeling. As one cleaner put it, "You walk in and it's like the place doesn't want you there." Things escalated when another neighbor, a man who had moved into the same apartment months later, complained of nightmares and sleep paralysis. He told the front office he kept seeing a woman standing by the window, always in the same spot, always silent, always staring at him, even when he was awake. After just 2 weeks, he broke the lease and left. Didn't even take his security deposit. The building managers never spoke about it publicly. But insiders say Zion's old apartment has had 4 tenants in less than 2 years. None of them stayed. As for the lawsuit, it never went to trial. Zion's team denied everything. No arrests were made, no official charges stuck. But the whispers didn't stop. Some believe the story is just that, a story, a product of media chaos and wounded feelings. But others, they think something happened in that apartment. Something that left a stain no amount of bleach could erase. Because sometimes horror doesn't look like a ghost in the hallway or a shadow in the mirror. Sometimes it's just silence. The kind that follows trauma and never really leaves. And in one apartment in New Orleans, that silence still lingers, waiting for the next person to walk through the door. Have you ever heard of an NBA player who vanished and wasn't found until the smell of death seeped through the trees? Lorenzen Wright wasn't just a basketball player. He was a hometown hero, a 6'11" Memphis legend who played in the NBA for over a decade. But in 2010, what should have been a peaceful offseason turned into a story so dark, it still chills everyone who hears it. July 18th, 2010. Lorenzen leaves his ex-wife's home late at night. He's seen getting into a car, casually dressed, no signs of distress. He doesn't come back, doesn't call, doesn't show up to check on his kids. Nothing. His mother, Deborah Marion, calls the police the next morning. She knows something is wrong. This isn't like him. But for days, no one finds anything. Not Lorenzen, not his car, not even a clue. Until a chilling 911 call surfaces. It was made from his phone, a brief, horrifying moment where a man's voice is heard yelling, then gunshots. Multiple, loud, then silence. Police trace the call. It leads them to a wooded area just outside Memphis. 9 days after he vanished, they find his body. Decomposed, riddled with bullet wounds, left in the dirt like trash. The community is shattered. Who would want him dead? Why? For years, the case goes cold. No arrests, no suspects, no motive anyone could prove. But Lorenzen's mother never let it go. She knew something wasn't right. She kept pushing, kept asking questions. And finally, 7 years later, in 2017, everything cracked wide open. A gun was recovered from a lake in Mississippi. Ballistics matched it to the bullets found in Lorenzen's body. That gun led investigators straight to the unthinkable. Shara Wright Robinson, Lorenzen's ex-wife, the mother of his 6 children, the last person to see him alive. She had plotted the murder, not alone, with the help of a man named Billy Ray Turner, a church deacon, and her secret lover. They lured Lorenzen out that night, pretending it was just another stop on his way home. But it was an ambush. She helped organize it, fund it, and cover it up. Why? Money. Shara had taken out $1 million life insurance policy on Lorenzen before the murder. She used some of that payout to write a book, a thinly veiled fiction, about a woman who kills her basketball player husband. The story was never fiction. In 2019, Shara pled guilty to facilitating the murder. She's serving 30 years. Turner was later convicted of first-degree murder. But here's the part that keeps people up at night. For years, Lorenzen's body laid alone in the woods. His children, the ones he loved, were being raised by the very person who helped kill him. No one knew. No one suspected. Until the whispers turned into evidence and the truth finally clawed its way into the light. Some say the house Shara once lived in is cursed now. Neighbors claim to hear knocking sounds even when it's empty. Others talk about dreams of a tall man walking the woods, not angry, just lost. Because sometimes ghosts don't need haunted houses, they just need justice. And for Lorenzen Wright, that justice came far too late.